There are some storylines going into fall camp, and we're going to bring in Michael Katz and talk all about that.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Stephen Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Thank you very much for making us your first listen every day. And please find a second listen on the network, all the college teams and pro teams getting ready for training camp. They're on there for your perusal. And don't forget to like and subscribe and comment on this video. Doesn't cost anything, helps keep everything free. We have Michael Katz coming in, one of our favorite guests of the week. Michael, one thing that is interesting about all of this, Joe Cox put a picture out of the tight end room eating dinner. Caleb Odom was in the picture. There were crutches next to Luke Hasz. So all of the rumors that we have heard have been true. But listen, if Caleb Odom would buy into playing tight end, if he would absolutely buy in to being the best tight end he could be, that man would make millions of dollars.
Yeah, it's to start with the picture, for a program that takes injury secrets very, very seriously. It did not take long to find either Caleb Odom or the crutches on Luke Hasz's. I believe they were on his legs, and he was right on like the edge of the picture as well. First thing I saw, I was like, wait, tight ends. Okay, where is he? There he is. So yeah, obviously there have been some rumors going around, and obviously crutches at dinner, not a great sign. But listen, I think Daquan Wright is a fantastic player. I think he has a chance to be really, really, really good. He got really good towards the end of last year. I think he's just going to get better. And like you said, Caleb Odom, listen, this was a superstar recruit who has wide receiver ability, maybe more of a tight end body, depending how you look at it. And now you need him as a tight end. Listen, if I don't know how much they're going to ask him to block, that was, Cayden pre-scoring. He took a lot of pride in that. All tight ends are different. We know that. But if you can get him to put his hand in the dirt every once in a while, and honestly, just let him make plays in space like they do with Wright in terms of lining him out in the slot. They did that with pre-scoring too. You've got a mismatch. He's going to be too big for some defenders. He's going to be too fast for linebackers. I think, like you said, if there's buy-in there, and if they can get him to commit to being a tight end, and I know that can be an ego hit. I don't think anyone wants to go from wide receiver to tight end because they think of it as like a slight. But there's a lot of money to be made as a tight end at the next level. Look at these contracts going out there. Being a tight end in the NFL is not a bad gig these days. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there for him.
Yeah, Jimmy Graham, it would be an interesting comp. Just decided, hey, I'm going to be a tight end, 6'7", with a 15-year career. He basically made the Saints while he was down there, made Drew Brees. I mean, it can happen. And also, Ole Miss fans are probably going to get to know and start paying attention to Trace Buckler over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, injuries are tough, but it opens up new opportunities for maybe some people that you weren't expecting or weren't expecting to hear from. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. But I think that room is still in maybe not as good shape as it was, obviously, but I think it's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I've talked for the better part of 6 months about 12 personnel because going through the transfer portal, and they ran it a good bit last year and to a great effect. It just looked that way. And I talked to Chris Mangum, and they added Joe Judge and started bringing him in on the offense. It just feels like 12 personnel, which means Caleb Odom going to tight end and being in that room at the start of fall camp, that kind of almost confirms that.
I mean, here's the thing. You have brought in so many really good receivers in this last offseason with, obviously you already had Cayden Lee, who is one of the SEC's most underrated players. We know that. You bring in Stribling, you bring in Harrison Wallace, you bring in Traylon Ray, you bring in Deuce Alexander. You've got all these guys, and then you bring Caleb Odom in too, and not to mention Caleb Cunningham is coming in as well. They can't all be on the field at the same time at the same spot. You might as well use them where you can use them. Caleb Odom, getting him on the field, I think, is going to be a really big advantage if they can do it.
Yeah, and Lane, let's not act like it's always just hand on the dirt tight end. It's not like Jeremy Shockey. They split out their tight end a good bit. It looks like 10 personnel when it's actually 11 personnel because there's a tight end in the formation.
Yeah, I mean, it could be kind of Kenny Yeboah-ish if I think would probably be a good in terms of like usage and how they line them up. That would probably make a lot of sense. But again, lots on Daquan Wright's plate now. I think there already was. I think expectations. I don't know if I think they should be really high because I think he's really good.
Yeah.
I think he's a really underrated player. Maybe more on his plate, but when he got opportunities last year, he was really, really good.
Yeah, and he caught the sticky touchdown pass from Jackson Dart in the Gator Bowl. It was just a perfect throw where he just handed it to him essentially. But he had a really good game in that Gator Bowl, and that was almost you want to call it a coming out party of what was going on. And then Ole Miss got so tight end heavy in the transfer portal after that, it just made me think that they were onto something. And you always talk to people about rumors. Harrison Wallace is supposedly looking pretty good. Deshaun Stribling was looking good. Cayden Lee, of course, looks good. You've got the young guys. Winston Watkins, we didn't even mention him. He's balling out as well. But people like Deuce Alexander are really showing out. The point of all this is, I guess, is that anybody that thinks that Lane Kiffin is going to be without pass catchers, you haven't been here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I at media days, I guess it was last week now, talking to Cayden Lee, and I was like, man, like they just keep bringing guys in and you stay and you produce. Like, what kept you around? And he's like, who wouldn't want to play wide receiver for Lane Kiffin? They put up insane numbers. Like, if you play receiver well in this offense, you are going to have a chance at the next level, and it just keeps happening.
Yeah, and Cayden Lee's the first player that's really been an Elijah Moore-like player as far as what's going on. So there might be some similarities to that 2020 season when Lane had Elijah just for a little bit. I think that Cayden Lee can lead the SEC in receiving this year. I think he's going to get 9 catches a game. That is my expectations for Cayden.
I mean, if he had 874 something like last year, a couple touchdowns. One, I think touchdown numbers are going to go up for sure.
Yeah, way up.
But I think if it was a situation where he was the only receiver on the team, it might be troublesome. But you brought in guys who are also really, really good. You can't really double team anybody. It's the same situation you had last year where when Trey Harris was healthy, you have a superstar. When Jordan Watkins is right, you have a superstar. When Juice Wells is right, you've got a really good player. There's a lot of guys that need to be covered, and so I think that everyone's going to get their opportunities. And as we've seen, when Cayden Lee gets the ball, he makes good things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, when we come back, we are going to turn our attention to the running back position on the field. We're going to talk about Kewan Lacy a little bit, so stick around for that. You're already following the action, so why not make every game mean just a little bit more and make it that much more exciting? Make it thrilling. With FanDuel, you can get on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app always keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. Right now, my mind is completely on August 30th and the Georgia State Panthers. And right now, Ole Miss is a 37-point favorite in that game. Pretty good, right? If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. Open FanDuel today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, so let's go back to Michael Katz and talk a little bit about the running back room and other questions around college football as well. The rumors that I'm hearing in the background, the noise, is that Kewan Lacy, he is basically a firm grasp away from that playbook, away from being the runaway number one running back.
I mean, it shouldn't be surprising, and the reason I say that is, like, there's a reason they wanted him really badly out of high school, right? Like, this was a guy who they knew could do something for them, and I know that he didn't get a ton of run last year at Missouri. I think he had just over 100 yards. I don't think that's not a talent issue. That's just there had other guys on the depth chart and older guys, if I remember correctly. Again, if Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss identify you as at a high school as somebody that they want, it means you're probably a really good fit for that system. And I think that if given the opportunities, he's going to be really, really good. He was impressive. Talking to him in the spring, watching him work a little bit. I also think it's going to be good that he's not going to have to, carry the ball 300 times or anything like that. There's going to be other guys to take the load off. I know it was brought up at media days, the run game last year, and we don't have, I'm begging us not to talk about Ulysses Bentley again, but that was the big mystery of last year and what that was. But regardless of what that was, the running game last year is the worst it's ever been under Lane, statistically speaking. And when you've got a young quarterback back there, and I know we think Austin is going to be great, but a running game helps a young quarterback immensely. Look at how much the running game helped Jackson his first year. When you had Quinshon and Zach Evans, who rushed for like almost 3,000 yards combined that year. I mean, it was pretty insane what they did. So that being said, I don't know if it's going to be that kind of running game, but I think that I have to imagine it's going to be emphasized a little bit more. And I think when you have a talented guy like Lacy, who, again, you've been eyeing him for years, I'm not surprised that if he ends up taking charge of that room. I think he's really talented and a really good fit for what they do.
The player that I'm interested to see in the running back room is Damian Taylor, the running back transfer from Troy. Is he going to be another Rashad Amos who put up big numbers at the G5 level and it just didn't quite translate? Or is he going to be like what everybody expects Ahmad Hardy at Missouri to be, where you go from the G5 and you kind of don't miss a beat a little bit? I'm curious about that. I will be looking at that. But the three players that I will be paying attention to the first day of fall camp, whenever they open, is Caleb Odom, Kewan Lacy, and then Jalen Braxton, the guy that everybody has penciled in at cornerback, that for reasons beyond their control could end up in another position in that defense. I'm curious to see if that is just a summer thing with the rumors that you're hearing, or if they will actually try to move him in the fall camp. It's interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a little gamesmanship this time of year and smoke and mirrors to an extent. And again, with like the first few games of the season, you can do a little bit of testing in terms of where you play guys. I will say though, going back to Taylor, I don't know if you play the NCAA football game, but he is the starting running back for Ole Miss, and Luke Hasz was the starting tight end. So I'm not sure if they're going to be doing roster updates or how frequently, and I don't know what NCAA knows, but they have Taylor as one of their impact players. Doesn't mean anything, but I was a little bit surprised by that.
Yeah, last year I think they had a couple of weird things too, right?
Yes, because they didn't have somebody in the game, and it was someone wearing number 40 who was like their starting running back, and I was like, who is this? This is interesting. Yeah, no. So I assure you, I do not take NCAA as gospel, but I did think that was kind of funny, and I personally am always a little bit gun shy on group of 5 running backs because I was burned pretty bad by Rashad Amos last year. I thought that was a dude. I was so sure of it, and boy, I think a lot of us got that one wrong.
I think they panicked a year ago. The Quinshon thing caught everybody off guard, and they panicked and started taking scholarships from everybody they could get to hopefully somebody would work. And when Henry Parrish got hurt and the other ones, they just weren't quite good enough, you saw what happened. You end up with a fifth string wide receiver playing running back against the Florida Gators. So that's going on. I think this year it was much more thoughtfully put together by Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, I mean, there were no surprises in terms of what you were losing or what you were expecting back. You weren't really expecting much back, so you knew you had to reload that room big time. So I think that, you know, obviously Henry Parrish was having a really good year for them last year. It was really that was pretty tough when he went down, not just for the team, but for him personally. Have to imagine that probably impacted, you know, what happened with him professionally. But you know, I think that depth wise, they're and talent wise, I think back there too, they're in a pretty good spot, at least compared to last year.
All right, before we get out of here, the Big Ten Media Days are going on this week, and they are taking the opportunity to take their victory lap on the SEC this week. But they are really pounding their playoff model that they have. And I think, listen, I think that Tony Petitti has the right idea. He accidentally got there, but he has the right idea. And the reason that I think that is NIL, name, image, and likeness, was supposed to make it to where a player could do a commercial for a local car dealership and make money off of their name, image, and likeness. It turned out to pay for play and collectives and all of that. People are always gaming systems. So the Tony Petitti system puts the bids in the arms of the conferences and at a coefficient that is performance-based, and it gets harder to game the system. USC is already talking about canceling the series with Notre Dame because of the playoff. And honestly, that's going to happen. The Power 4 game for the SEC, that's going to go away. Ole Miss is going to stay at 8. They're going to play 4 nobodies, charge premium ticket prices to see it, and go through. Everything becomes about the playoff. People start opting out of conference championship games because they're not going to matter anymore. I think that Petitti has accidentally got the right idea on this.
As a USC alumni, I can assure you that the Notre Dame game wasn't going to be the reason they don't make the playoff anytime soon. They have other problems to deal with at the moment. I am hot, a little higher on my Trojans than a lot of people are, but they have a lot of issues right now. I don't think the Notre Dame game was what's going to hold them back, because the Big Ten is the 4-4-2-2-1, correct?
Yes, with 3 at-large bids.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I like it. I get it. I don't want to have to see Indiana in there again. You know what I mean? Like, I hope that the teams that they get the right teams from the conferences in there is all I'm hoping, because that was the issue this past year. Is you can get you can get great teams from you can get a certain number of teams from conferences. I think the Big Ten had 4 in there last year. I think they had 4. The SEC had 3. Yeah, but like, let's be honest, was anybody like really afraid of Indiana? Probably not. I just think we have to figure that part of it out in terms of like, how do we evaluate how good teams really are? And like, I don't know what the answer is there. And I think as long as you have people in a room sequestered away for weekends at a time, trying to figure things out, I don't think there's ever going to be like a non-subjective way to do it. Listen, I think that like Penn State, I can't believe I'm saying this, might be the best team in the country right now. Like, on paper. Again, I'm saying this. I'm not saying they're going to win the national championship. We've seen this one before. But, the Big Ten is, they've got really good teams. And they've won the last 2 national titles. So, I mean, they deserve this little victory lap right now to an extent. But I like the idea of 4 from those 2 conferences. But, when you have Ohio State in there, you feel pretty good about it. When you're running with Indiana or USC or whoever it ends up being for whatever year, you might run into a little bit of trouble if you're counting on those guys. So I just want to see the best teams in there, and I think that's what most people want. I just don't know if we're ever actually going to get there.
Well, I think in the Big Ten model, 15 out of the 16 teams that would have been eligible in the 5-11 model would have made it in. The only difference is Iowa State would have gotten in at the expense of, I think, Ole Miss, if we're going to be honest about it. But the best team, the team that everybody wants to see, is going to be there in every model.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to whether or not there's representation of the Big 12 of a second team getting in, and maybe instead of 6 SEC teams, it's 5, because you have to think one of the at-larges will be SEC teams as well.
Yeah, no, it's I know that was obviously, this was a big part of media days too. There were 2 things everybody wanted to talk about in media days. There's CFP expansion and revenue sharing. Those were the 2 talking points for every coach. And that's obviously, you have them there, you're going to ask them those questions. I just, I think that this whole 8 versus 9 conference game things is they got SEC. I know the Big Ten really, like, they are demanding the SEC plays that 9th game if they're going to do that. If I'm not mistaken, they are really high on that. I don't know if the SEC's. I mean, I know coaches will say they'll play anyone, anytime, anywhere. But do you really want to play another SEC game? I wouldn't. That sounds awful. Why would you do that? You're another game against a game you could lose. Who wants to do that? So.
And a very subjective thing with a smoke-filled room with people deciding over a criteria that nobody knows anything about.
Yeah, but they'll tell us they were right. Remember, they always got it right.
They always got the playoff correct. Even last year when Boise State and Arizona State were in the top 4.
And I had to watch SMU.
Yes. Oh, that SMU game at Penn State was ridiculous.
That was awful.
Yeah, they wanted to put their fingers on the scale last year. That's what happened. And whenever you did that, Ohio State ended up as the 7 or the 8 seed. Yeah. And they should have been like the 4 seed and got a bye, but that messed up every single matchup. And they're like, oh, these matchups are terrible. It's like, y'all made this.
We're all trying to find the guy who did this.
Yeah, seriously. Anyway, Michael, what do you got going on at the Daily Journal, man?
We had some basketball availability yesterday, meeting with Chris Beard and Eduardo Klafke and Keza Kiffin from formerly of High Point. Really interesting story with him. He's played at a lot of places. I didn't realize that he was at UTEP to start his career, then went to Daytona State, then went to High Point. So he's had a really interesting career. So with some basketball stories the last couple of days, and I have one more coming. And then allegedly football starts sometime next week. We aren't sure of the specifics, but we imagine it has to be about a month before the season starts. So it's got to be sometime soon.
They took the players' weight off of the official site, off the roster. I mean, what are we doing, people?
But then, we got probably some previews of what I'm looking for Monday and Tuesday, and hypothetically, if they start Wednesday, then we'll start the real coverage. But probably some preview stuff to start next week as well.
Should be pretty good. Thank you for coming on the show, and we will talk to you next week, buddy.
Appreciate you, man.
All right, man. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves in offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show. It is totally free. Just Google Ole Miss podcast, by the way, if you want to check that out. Your support means the world to us. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes of college football's landscape. Find the Portal Podcast on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. Malik Dia exclusively tomorrow on this channel. We'll see you then.